Do you want to simplify your social interactions in your role-playing game? Well, you can do that with 3 simple words. I am Groot. So let's build Groot from Guardians of the Galaxy in Dungeons & Dragons. Now, I did already build him kind of in a rushed way a long time ago on this channel, but there's been massive changes in 2024 with some great new possibilities that fit Groot way better. So let's go ahead and dive in, starting with the species. Now, we don't have direct access to anything that's straight up a tree person, mostly because there's some copyright things they have to get around with Lord of the Rings, but the closest we can probably come is by going with an earth genasi. These are basically humanoid versions of elementals, and sometimes they're depicted more as rock-like, but we can just as easily argue that it can be more tree-like. Another option would be going with a warforged, and instead of being built out of metal, you're built out of wood, but I like to go with an earth genasi here, even though half the time I usually pronounce it genasi. Anyways, one of the first features you get is earth walk. So as long as you're walking on the ground and not trying to swim or fly, you can completely ignore difficult terrain and move at your normal speed. The other notable feature is merge with stone. So this gives you the blade ward cantrip, and starting at 5th level, you can actually cast pass without trace without requiring any of the material components, but you can only do this for free once per long rest. But honestly, I don't feel like that part fits the character too much because Groot isn't exactly stealthy, unless you're talking about little tiny Groot. Then when it comes to a background, you do fly through space, you're part of the Guardians of the Galaxy, so we're going to grab the background, Wild Spacer. This gives us proficiency in athletics and survival. We have proficiency with space vehicles if we want that, and then on top of all that, this background grants us the Tough feat. So we have an extra 2 hit points of health per level of this overall build. Then when it comes to a point spread, we're going to have a point spread that looks like this, really focusing on the physical stuff, because in actuality, Groot isn't a caster like I made him in my previous build. Because previously I had to lean into Druid and do mostly earth-based stuff while still kind of acknowledging the fact that he's a tank. But now there's some new updates in 2024, so I can focus just on the tanky stuff and just on the physical skills. Even though one could probably argue that having a high charisma is necessary because you have to have everybody understand what you're saying with just 3 words all the time. But just hope everybody's pretty good at their insight checks, and we're going to go much more into the tanky side by going with a Barbarian. Becoming a Barbarian gives us proficiency in 2 skills, so we're going to grab Nature and Animal Handling. Animal Handling mostly for dealing with Rocket. We get proficiency to a whole bunch of weapons and shields and light and medium armor. Then at 1st level of Barbarian, we get access to Rage. This makes it so you can actually enter a rage a certain amount of times per short or long rest, regaining 1 use on a short rest, but all of your uses on a long rest. And when you activate your rage, you gain damage resistance, giving you resistance to all normal types of damage. You deal additional damage as long as you're using strength for your attack. Right now that damage is only a +2, but it levels up as you level up in Barbarian, hitting a +3 at level 9 and a +4 at level 16. When your rage is active, you also have advantage on all of your strength checks and strength saving throws, but the downsides here are that you can't cast any sort of spell or concentrate on any spell while you're raging, and your rage only continues if you try to deal some damage, or you force an enemy to make a saving throw, or you use your bonus action to keep your rage going. Otherwise, it only lasts until the end of your next turn, but it still can only go for as long as 10 minutes. And the only other restriction is that you can't wear heavy armor while you're raging. But that's especially easy if you use the next feature at 1st level, which is Unarmored Defense. So if you're not wearing any light or medium armor, you can actually have an armor class equal to 10 plus your dexterity modifier plus your constitution modifier. And you can still have a shield on top of that. Then the last thing you get at 1st level Barbarian is some weapon masteries. Now we're going to focus everything on more bludgeoning type of weapons or things that feel like it's just an extension of Groot's arm. Now you might also be able to argue that like a spear would be viable with piercing through a bunch of people with your branches, but I'm going to lead more into bashing attacks. So we have things like clubs, great clubs, mauls, or warhammers. This will give you weapon mastery features like push, slow, and topple. Push is pretty obvious. You get to push a creature. Slow slows an enemy down, which can be very good as a tank because it means you're slowing down your enemies so they can't get to your allies as easily. And topple is you knock them to the ground. Then at second level of Barbarian, you get Reckless Attack. So you can attack with advantage for the entirety of your turn as long as you activate this on the first attack you're doing on your turn, but all attack rolls against you are also at advantage. Then at third level of Barbarian, you get access to Primal Knowledge, giving you proficiency in one more skill. So we're going to go ahead and take Perception because that's always pretty helpful to have. And you get a subclass. And the absolute perfect subclass that was just added in 2024 for GROOT is Path of the World Tree. This is all about having basically tree-like aspects in your barbarian stuff, and you are connected to this cosmic tree. And this aspect really reflects in the very first feature you get, Vitality of the Tree. So when you go into a rage, you get a number of temporary hit points equal to your barbarian level, which is a pretty solid amount of temp HP as a shield. The 2024 handbook is really leaning into a lot of temp HP stuff. And the other aspect of this feature is life-giving force. So at the start of each of your turns, while you're raging, you can actually choose another creature within 10 feet of yourself and grant them a number of temporary hit points equal to a number of d6s that you roll, which is equal to the amount of rage damage bonus points that you get. So at this level, you only have a +2 bonus to your rage, meaning that you can roll 2d6 and use that as the amount of temp HP that you're granting to somebody as a bonus action. But these temp HP only last until your rage ends. So that means that if you have a bunch of people around you, you can actually add temp HP each time to a different person, which in general seems like a pretty awesome ability, especially mitigating any damage to your allies and really leaning into being a tank/protector. Then at fourth level Barbarian, we get an ability score improvement. So let's go ahead and throw 2 points into strength because that helps everything Barbarian related. And then at fifth level of Barbarian, you get access to fast movement, improving your movement speed by 10 feet, and you get extra attack. So now you can attack twice per normal attack action. At sixth level of Barbarian, you get another feature from the World Tree called Branches of the Tree. So whenever you see a creature that starts its turn within 30 feet of you while you're raging, you can use your reaction to have the branches of the World Tree wrap around that creature. The target must succeed a strength saving throw, or they get teleported within 5 feet of you. And after that target teleports, their speed is 0. Now, D&D Shorts actually came up with a great way that you can break the game with this, because according to the 2024 rules, if somebody unwillingly falls from any sort of height and they're not jumping down on their own, they will fall prone. So if you use D&D Shorts method and you teleport them to 5 feet above your head, and then they fall down at your feet, and then their speed is 0 thanks to this feature, they're now falling prone, meaning you and anybody that's attacking within melee range is also going to be attacking at advantage, because anybody that's prone gets advantaged attacks against them if they're within melee range. But that's if your DM allows you to teleport them above your head. If you don't want to completely break things, then you teleport them within 5 feet of you on the ground. But you can also stand near a ledge if you really want to get smart with it and teleport them off the ledge as long as you're at the edge as well. Then at 7th level of Barbarian, you get Feral Instinct, giving you advantage on all of your initiative checks. Also at this level, you get Instinctive Pounce. So as part of the bonus action of you going into a rage, you can also move half of your movement speed. Then at 8th level of Barbarian, you get another ability score improvement, so let's go ahead and max out that strength. And then at 9th level of Barbarian, you get Brutal Strike. This replaced the old Brutal Critical, but this makes it so when you're using your reckless attack, you can give up advantage on one of your attacks. And then if the attack still hits, you deal an extra 1d10 of damage. And on top of that, you can add one effect, either Forceful Blow, pushing the target 15 feet away from you, and you can then move up to half of your movement speed directly towards them, and you can do so without provoking any opportunity attacks. Or you can do Hamstring Blow, reducing their movement speed by 15 feet, which lasts until the start of your next turn. And most notably, neither one of these requires a saving throw, meaning they just happen. Then at 10th level of Barbarian, you get access to another weapon mastery, but we already covered most of those. And you get another feature from the World Tree called Battering Roots. So GROOT has some pretty long arms that he can actually stretch out further because they're like growing branches. So now, because of this feature, your reach is 10 feet greater, as long as you're using a weapon that has either the heavy or versatile property. So if you want to have a shield on and use a warhammer, this still works. And on top of that, you can actually activate the push or topple weapon mastery feature on top of whatever the weapon you're using already does. So you can activate 2 weapon masteries at the same time while reaching somebody that's more than 10 feet away from you. Then at 11th level of Barbarian, you get Relentless Rage. So if you get dropped to 0 hit points, you can make a DC 10 Constitution saving throw. And if you succeed, you then instead get twice your Barbarian level in hit points back. But every time you use this feature, the difficulty rating increases by 5 points. So the second time it's going to be a DC 15, the third time it'll be a DC 20. The difficulty resets back to a 10 on a short or long rest. Then at 12th level Barbarian, you get another ability score improvement, so let's go ahead and boost up our Constitution, because that helps everything Barbarian outside of attacking. Then at 13th level of Barbarian, you get improved Brutal Strike, giving you some additional options for your Brutal Strike feature. So now you can do Staggering Blow, forcing a target to have disadvantage on their next attack roll, and they can't make any opportunity attacks until the start of your next turn. Or you have the feature Sundering Blow, making it so the next attack against this creature gains a +5 bonus to the attack accuracy. Then at 14th level of Barbarian, you get another feature from your world tree called Travel Along the Tree. So when you activate your rage, or as a bonus action while your rage is active, you can teleport up to 60 feet. And on top of that, once per rage, you can increase the range of this teleport to 150 feet. And when you do so, you can actually bring 6 creatures along with you. You just have to make sure all of those creatures are within 10 feet of you. Almost like you're saving them in a last-ditch effort, like growing all the branches around yourself and encapsulating everybody and bringing them to safety. Then at 15th level of Barbarian, you get Persistent Rage. So when you roll initiative, you can actually regain all uses of your rage, but you can only do this once per long rest. And on top of this, you don't need to do anything to keep your rage going anymore. It can just automatically last for 10 minutes. But it still ends early if you get knocked unconscious or you put on some heavy armor. Then at 16th level of Barbarian, you get another ability score improvement. So let's go ahead and max out our Constitution. And then at 17th level of Barbarian, you get another improvement to your Brutal Strike. So now the damage boost from your Brutal Strike increases to a bonus 2d10 instead of just 1d10. And you can actually choose 2 bonuses from your Brutal Strike feature, where you used to only be able to enforce one of those abilities. Then at 18th level of Barbarian, you get Indomitable Might. So if you make a strength check or strength saving throw, and whatever you roll is less than your total strength score, you can actually just use your strength score instead. Then at 19th level of Barbarian, you get an Epic Boon. And I really wanted to hammer on the idea that as Groot, you can essentially get completely destroyed, but come back as sort of a newer, younger Groot. So we're going to take the Epic Boon of Recovery. You already have the ability to withstand going to 0 hit points as a Barbarian, but this is just going to enhance that even more. Because 1, this increases 1 ability score by 1 point. We don't have anything that'll actually benefit from this, so throw it wherever you want. But more importantly, this has 2 great features. 1 is Last Stand. So when you would be reduced to 0 hit points, you can then drop to 1 hit point instead, and then regain a number of hit points equal to half of your hit point maximum. But you can only do this once per long rest. But it's still a massive boost to the amount of health and tankiness that you have the ability to do. Then the other feature you get from this Epic Boon is Recover Vitality. So you have a pool of 10 D10s. So you can roll any number of those as a bonus action, and you regain a number of hit points equal to whatever you roll. You can use all of them at once, or you can spread them all out, and you regain all those dice back on a long rest. Then at max level of Barbarian, you get Primal Champion. So your strength and constitution scores are increased by 4 points each, and their maximum is now 25. So now each one of your attacks gets a massive boost in your flat damage, because while you're raging, you get a +7 from your strength modifier and a +4 from your rage damage bonus. Not to mention you can get other bonuses from all over the place, but that's just the flat damage bonus. This is a much more simple and straightforward way to play as Groot in Dungeons and Dragons. If there's anything you do differently, let me know in the comments down below. But if you want access to the character sheet for this build or any of my other builds, feel free to check out my Patreon, linked in the description down below.